All right, so if you had to rank all of Christopher Nolan's films from best to worst, where would you put Dunkirk? The first time I saw Dunkirk in the theater, I liked it. I didn't really connect with it that much. I wouldn't have put it anywhere near the top. But last night, I went to a screening of it, seeing it for the third time, I think, second time in the theater, and I was blown away. I think it's his best film. This guy has been doing timelines in an interesting way since the beginning. Memento, Inception, the timelines in Dunkirk are so brilliant and interesting and unique. I don't even know if I noticed that the first time I saw it. Well, I think I probably noticed it, but it didn't impact me as much as possible. I mean, think about the way that he balances things. So, for example, look at Star Wars. Star Wars is very good at keeping you up to date on all the struggles of all the characters, right? They'll go to Luke fighting whatever, and then they'll go to Han and Chewie, and then they'll go to Princess Leia. They go around and keep you up to date with everything that's going on. Christopher Nolan, let's just say in Dunkirk, does this masterfully. Air attacks, sea, the beach, the civilian boats, all that. He's doing it perfectly. But he takes it a step further and he starts jumbling the timeline. So things that happen in the early part come back and you see them in the context from a different perspective, and he's moving them around. It's like spinning plates, but in a different non-chronological order. It's amazing. I mean, this unique ability he has for messing with timelines. I say messing, but I just mean like doing something interesting with timelines I can't think of anybody else who does it like this. And I'm going to tell you right now, when I was going to the theater, I looked at the running time on my phone and I saw that it was 107 minutes, and I thought that's got to be a mistake. Christopher Nolan, not that many years ago, 107 minutes? No. And it's plenty of time. When I'm in a Nolan film, for the most part, if it's Oppenheimer 3 hours, Interstellar 3 hours, I don't notice the time, because they're just so good and I'm in it. I had a few problems with the Odyssey, as you know, and there are other films that maybe I don't like as much as, you got to rank them somewhere if you do a 1 through 12 or 10 or whatever he's got. Anyway, it was very impressive that in an hour and 47 minutes that Christopher Nolan could tell a story like this impactful, this much emotion, and pull it off. Man, I miss the days where movies were 2 hours or less. I mean, having said that, the story is as long as it needs to be, right? It's when there's bloat, I think that's when people start to have problems. Like Apocalypse Now Redux. Or whatever director's cut of whatever film. Don't just leave it unless there needs to be something added for the story, or it needs to be reduced or whatever. But just everything, there only needs to be the right amount of film. One of the interesting things I thought was that the French soldier that ended up being in that little sort of abandoned boat with a Dutchman, he ends up dying, which I thought was really interesting. And I wondered if it was Christopher, because he was like a very innocent guy. He was just like, I'm just trying to survive. I'm French, but I'm pretending to be British. And these Brits were trying to kick him out of the boat. They wanted him to go up first and see what was happening, why the bullets were coming through the side. And he felt really bad for him. And when the guy who was the ringleader of that survives and the Frenchman dies, I remember thinking, God, that's sad. But the more I thought about it, I wondered if this was maybe a symbolic opinion or perspective on behalf of Christopher Nolan on the French resistance or lack thereof during World War II. I don't really know what to say about it from a historical perspective, because I'm not that well versed in World War II. I mean, I know probably as much as anybody else who's like an average citizen, but I just wondered if it was a symbolic death. So the father in the civilian boat, I thought, had a lot of great moments. What an actor, what an actor. Like the first one was where at the end, when they were all back and they were walking through the train station, and the Air Force guy that they had rescued, one of the many, was showing his Air Force gear, and one of the foot soldiers says, "Where the fuck were you?" saying like, we were waiting on the beach for you assholes, but clearly that guy had been through. He was trying to help us. He was one of the few guys trying to help. And the father of the civilian boat, the main one, came over to him, grabbed him, and said, "Hey," and he pointed back to the rest of them in the boat. He said, "They know where you were." And I just thought, God, that's such a great moment of an experienced human being walking into a situation and say, "Let me just nip this right in the bud," before this guy goes, "Yeah, where was I?" or whatever. Like, no, 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 no. You crashed at sea. This little dickhead over here doesn't know what he's talking about. I thought that was a great moment. The other great moment that the father had was when the son that Cillian Murphy's character had accidentally killed, basically. I mean, it was a scuffle and he hit his head, and he wasn't trying to hurt the kid, but he was shell-shocked and all that. He had a lot of compassion for him. And after the boy had died, but Cillian Murphy's character didn't know it, he asked the older brother, the blonde-haired one, "Is that boy going to be all right?" And there was a moment of pause, and the son said, "Yeah, he'll be fine," knowing that he was dead. And then the father, also knowing he was dead, looked at his son and just went, "It's the right move," because that shell-shocked soldier needed to hear that. And I thought, what a fucking, I don't know if it's a sacrifice or what you want to call it, but the ability to recognize that this isn't the time to yell or be angry. I mean, could you imagine, like, someone had killed your brother or your son, and you have the strength and the courage and the compassion to put those feelings aside and think about this other human being, the one who was responsible? I mean, it was unintended, just moving. I this is going to sound weird, but I have, through this movie, sort of flashbacks to living in England. I did my postgraduate work there, studying music, and there were a lot of things that hit me in terms of the differences between living in England and growing up in the U.S. And I know this is a generalization. This might sound weird to people who are English, but I really got a sense when I was there of how much more attention to detail there was. Maybe that has something to do with tea time. I don't know, where you sit down with something warm in your hand and maybe you contemplate the universe. I don't know. I'm sure not everyone's doing that. Yobs aren't doing that, right? But in their own way, they probably are. But in general, I sort of felt like there was a real appreciation for the words that we use and the way that they seemed to look at the universe felt a little more intentional and thoughtful than, obviously there's a lot of Americans, it's a big country, there's a lot of people here who do that. But the reason I'm mentioning it is because I felt that in this film, particularly with, Kenneth Branagh's character and the lead character and the family in the main civilian boat. I really it really took me back. And maybe this is just, grass is greener kind of thing, where I'm having nostalgia for a time where I was living in England and feeling this difference in a good way, and it just took me back. But throughout the whole film, I kind of felt it, and I don't know if that's something that was intentional, because I know Christopher Nolan's not working with exclusively British or English filmmakers. I'm very careful to say English and not Scottish and Welsh, whatever. So that's another thing that I wonder about, if it was intentional to have that sort of, that cultural attention to detail. All right, so to me, it's hard to pick one of the greatest moment in the film, and it's not something that I need to do. But there was a moment where those civilian ships arrived towards the end of the film, and the music, which was intense throughout, and it was beautiful, and the music was very heartwarming, and the soldiers on the large carriers and on the beach started cheering. Oh my God, what a moment. I mean, it really hit me hard. I was already in at this point. I had already put this film at the top of the Nolan pile, but that just sealed the deal for me. I mean, I was emotional. I felt like I was an Italian in the 1970s watching Pavarotti in his prime, you know, just weeping and yelling, bravissimo. You know, it was just overwhelmingly great and beautiful and powerful. I mean, I felt like I was being rescued. The last thing I want to say about this film is I think there was just so much fucking beauty. The beautiful shots are amazing. They just come one after another. It's like the Beatles, just hit after hit after hit. And at the end, with Tom Hardy floating on the beach, knowing he's going to be captured, probably going to be tortured and killed, and he just sets fire to his plane like a soldier so that they can't get their hands on it and they can't figure out, you know, whatever they need to figure out to keep more of their people alive and kill more Royal Air Force. And he's just standing there looking at it. And it felt like a real symbolic moment of a plane on fire. Somebody mentioned in somewhere that it was similar to like a Viking funeral, that it reminded them of that, which I don't know much about, but if you do, put it in the comments. I'd love to know about it. But the moment where it was ending and the plane was on fire, and I thought, if they end with this shot, I am gonna smack myself across the face for not remembering anything about this film, because what a terrific ending. Of course, he didn't end that way. But for a moment, I get the feeling he maybe thought about it, showing this thing, this warcraft, this tool on fire to just show the nightmare scenario that was involved here was going to be courageous and bold, and it was powerful. But of course, just as they're about to end, they cut to the main character who had just finished reading Churchill's speech in the newspaper to his friend or his soldier, his comrade or whatever. And he doesn't say anything. And he just kind of looks up surprised, and then it ends. It's quiet. I don't know what that means. I got to think about it more. If anybody's got any fan theories out there, I'd love to hear it. I can't stop replaying this film in my head. It's just so beautiful. I would probably see it every day this week if it were still playing. It was playing one day. I don't know why. But it was near me, and I'm glad I went to see it. Dunkirk. What a film. What a picture. It's going to sit at the top of the Nolan pile for me for quite a while. Where do you place Dunkirk? I'd like to know. Where do you place it in Christopher Nolan's films? Where do you place it in World War II films in general? What a story. I got to learn more about this story. It's just an extraordinary time. Really kind of made me feel like, what am I doing? I'm sitting around polishing off another bag of Lay's potato chips. These guys are, nobody wants that situation, of course, but like just in terms of like the beautiful human connection that I feel like sometimes can only happen when there are bad things and you see the best of humanity in the worst of times, So, all right, Dunkirk, let me know what you think. Don't forget to sign up for Movie Raffle Club if you can. It's where I pick a winner from all the Patreon members that support this channel. And I send you a little collection of DVDs. So if you like getting physical mail, join up. I'll put a link in the description. Until next time, Dunkirk.